Hello and welcome to VB WRX. My name is Oasis, and today finally I have some fantastic news for our brethren in the 2023 WRXs. Cobb has finally got their ECU sorted out, and the Accessport does work with the 2023. I know a lot of people have been waiting this for a very long time. When did this come out? I believe like in mid or late November, the 2022 was able to be modified using the Accessport, and now about, almost 8 months later, we have it for, or almost 9 months later, we have for the 2023. You know, a lot of people have been waiting on it. It's really cool. A couple of things to take note. Not only did we get Accessport support for the 2023, Cobb actually released a couple of extra goodies. So let's take a look at these things. They've got a couple of bolt-ons. If you recall before, they did have a top-mount intercooler that was available for the 2022 WRX. They have added a few more things that are required for their Stage 2 OTS map that they have also released. Now, this one's really interesting because now you have to remember, when they make these OTS, these off-the-shelf maps, they make them for a wide range of cars and a wide range of, I'm not going to say parts anymore, but a wide range of cars. So the power is a little bit lower than what you would expect that would be available if you got an E-Tune or a Pro Tune or a Dyno Tune, whatever you want to call it. And the other thing that Cobb is trying very hard to do is stay CARB compliant. Now, this is something that's been a big deal for some time now. Many people have heard the EPA try to do things with the car community by not having emissions deletes and things like that. Cobb is keeping that stuff in mind because obviously with as many WRXs there are all around the United States, they want to be able to sell their parts and their tunes in every single state, specifically California, right? That's where the biggest issue is. I know there's a couple of intakes that can't even be shipped to California at this particular moment because of CARB stuff. Now, the reason for that is they've actually made a whole video about this, the hydrocarbon trap. Now, this is really interesting. People have been taking this out of their intakes. Now, Cobb made a really good video about this. I'm not going to go over a whole lot of detail because I actually didn't really know about it until the 22 WRX. Basically, it's a filter not for the things that are going into the engine, but really any excess emissions that are coming out of the engine. The hydrocarbon trap is supposed to basically trap that. So it makes sense. I understand why it's there, and I understand why they don't want to use it. They don't want to remove it. Now, that leads into what the new packages are. And these Stage 2 packages and the individual items, which are really interesting, is they, as in Cobb, actually released an intake tube to work with the stock air box, which is very interesting. I know that one of the reasons many people use or purchase an intake or put an intake on their car is they like the whoosh whoosh noises, you know. I'm guilty of it as well. Now, you probably won't get that same sound with the stock airbox, but I think it's possible that with the high flow filter that they're selling and the intake tube, you might actually get some performance gain. I would imagine that in this particular case, it has now basically become an aftermarket intake like the other ones. The only difference here is instead of having, you know, a cone filter or what other particular type of filter you would have on an aftermarket intake, they're just using the stock airbox. Now, they do provide or have available for purchase a high flow air filter. I believe Grimspeed has one. I think somebody else has one as well that you can purchase right now. I don't know how much better that's going to be over, you know, like a cone filter or something like that. This is something that once people start buying this, because I don't believe you can buy this just yet, this whole Stage 2 package, this is coming. People will be able to buy it and see how it works. Now, another thing that they've added is obviously the top-mount intercooler was already available, so that's part of this package. And you now have a charge pipe, an aluminum charge pipe, which is interesting. I've been trying to find individual dyno numbers for people installing just charge pipes to see how much of a gain and performance that is. I don't know how much that is. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find individual information on that, so I wasn't able to bring you that. But what I was able to bring you is just some random numbers. Let's say you got yourself an intake of some kind, a top-mount intercooler and a charge pipe of some kind, and you're running 93. And what I was able to do is, off of Facebook, I was able to pull up a couple of numbers that I wanted to share with you guys. Like there are some bits of information that we can extrapolate from this. This is a terrible picture, but this particular user with the same parts was making somewhere between 330 horsepower, 360 pound-foot of torque. That's a good amount. It's definitely not on the high side, and this was on 93. It's in the middle, right? That's not a bad number. Another user over here was making 372, 389. That's definitely more on the high side. This was also 93 MAP. So I think it's really going to depend on the tuner that you end up picking. This particular car made 341 horsepower, 357 pound-foot of torque. I think some of these dyno numbers were from the earlier days of when tuning was first available, maybe somewhere around March or April, which is crazy. It seems like a long time from what it was back then. It's very interesting. But now we're going to talk about the OTS numbers, which admittedly are always lower than what is available with e-tuning and dyno tuning, because obviously these numbers, these tunings that Cobb puts out have to go to a lot of vehicles. So they can't just be like, boom, balls to the wall, blow your stuff. So what they are claiming with this, with the stage 2, now something to remember, the stage 2, if you are to use the stage 2 OTS, you do need to have this power package. That means you need to have obviously the Accessport, you need to have the intake tube, you need to have the charge pipe, the high flow filter, and the top mount. That's pretty steep to have all those parts to make this power. Now, the power that they're referring to is they're looking somewhere around 360-ish pound-foot of torque and 320-ish horsepower. Now, if you look at this other dyno that I had earlier, 330 horsepower, 360 pound-foot of torque, it's awfully close to that, considering that is what I would think for those parts, a fairly conservative tune, but still a very fun tune and something that'll keep you from heat soaking as much as the stock intercooler. So is it the most power that you can make? No. Is it pretty good power? I'd say yeah. A WRX making 330 horsepower is a lot of fun, considering stock you're making like somewhere between 250 and 260. That's a good increase. Now, how much of that increase is it over their stage 1 tune? This is something we're going to go look. I do have this pulled up here. When they had the stage 1, which was just no hard parts at all, the OTS map for stage 1 was making somewhere around 310 pound-foot of torque and 293 horsepower. Now, when I had the OTS, I did actually have a race, and this was the MAPerformance stage 2 STI, which was whatever power I was making, that's irrelevant. When I did virtual dyno on my car, when I had the OTS stage 1, I was making around, I think it was like right at 295 horsepower and like 305 torque. So very close to the numbers that Cobb provided. This is a pretty good increase for the car. 320 horsepower. Was it 320 horsepower? 327. So like, let's say even if you hit 320. So going from 295 to 320, that's a sizable chunk of horsepower. And then the torque going from 310 to 360, almost 365, that is a massive difference. That's really what you're going to feel, especially if you're launching this car or even doing some rolls. You can feel that extra bit of torque. Now, this is great. I think it is important for more companies to have more parts. I think more parts does provide good competition. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the aluminum intake tube does without having any extra filters. I would expect that it would make very similar power to the others because it is a larger diameter. I believe, did they say they're going 3 inches? Yeah, so it is a full 3-inch tube. So it's, I want to say, very similar to the ETS. I think the ETS was 3-inch. I'll go back and verify that and post that up here. It is always good to have more intakes, gives people more options. Now, another thing that they did talk about was this, the charge pipe does have a very interesting little mechanism on the front of it. Now, this is, if you change a charge pipe, or if you have changed the charge pipe, whether you've gone a top mount or a front mount, you have noticed that the little metal retaining clip that goes onto the turbo side is a huge pain in the butt. And even on the, there's one on the intercooler side and one on the turbo side. So they've actually made their own little clip here, which is supposed to make that a much, much easier process. I'll take their word for it. I don't have one. So now that this stuff has been put out. It's not out for release yet to purchase, but as soon as it is, I'm sure many people will be able to get it, and I look forward to seeing tuners test it. I will definitely report back to you guys to see if it's any better, especially when it comes to price. If it is slightly cheaper than getting just a full-on intake, you know, with the filter and everything, then we might have something here, you know. But if it's the same price, it'll just be another option for people who want to have more of a stealth look, because, you know, when you look into the engine bay and it's black and you just see a stock air box, you wouldn't really know that there is an intake tube down there helping you make that power. So for people that are looking for that kind of look, this actually this may be something, you know, this may be something that you want. I know not everybody is into the whole, you know, being flashy, so this is another option. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope this was informative, and you guys that have the 2023 WRXs, I gotta say, welcome to the fun. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one.